We were, 2015, 2016?
Okay.
But we got lucky. Dave Pickerel helped them get started.
Okay.
So
Yeah, and now you guys got you have some aged barrels under your belts, and so you can keep just
7-year comes out this year.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, good.
Right,
Did you want to talk about national divorce? I don't think you want to talk about national divorce.
A podcast about bourbon and the ones who drink it. This is Bourbon Matters. Welcome to Bourbon Matters. I'm Jake.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Jake number 2.
And we're joined by Wes from Beer, Bourbon, and Balderdash, representing the West Coast tonight.
Yeah. We used to say the best
on
coast,
the West,
but we can't say that anymore.
Does everything on the West Coast have to have alliteration to it to be able to be successful?
What do you mean by that?
The beer, bourbon, and balderdash?
No, we just farting around. You know, as I looked at other podcasts kind of in our section, because I wanted to listen to other podcasts like your guys's, because I like Bourbon Matters. I found a lot like beer, bourbon, and board games. And I was like, oh, how's that work? Beer, bourbon, and buds. We talked about doing that too, but, you know, because weed's legal in Washington. And having friends is legal. I love that noise.
It's such a great noise. I purposely waited until we started recording.
No, I really like that noise. That's one of my favorite noises. Yeah, so we just thought it just because we John is a he's been a beer judge. He makes his own beer. He's actually very good at it too. It's delicious stuff. And I really enjoy bourbon. I just kind of enjoy the chemistry of it and tasting it. And we're both very nonsensical. So the balderdash comes in with the nonsensical.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've listened to several episodes of your show now. Yeah, you guys are pretty hilarious.
Thank you.
It's fun to listen. And like we talked about, you guys cover all kinds of different topics. There's not really much discrimination in what you guys end up talking about.
No, and we're really so we have to pick often a topic because early on when we first started, it was kind of like a bar talk. You know, we'll just sit here, we'll get trashed, and then we'll just keep yammering on. And that really led to off the rails things. I think it was kind of becoming disinteresting. So we had we decided to be like, hey, what do you want to talk about? And at least it kind of gave us, you know, some bumpers, some guardrails, so that we didn't fly off the freeway and crash into ourselves. So. And I really enjoy listening to Bourbon Matters. I like your guys' knowledge. You're very, very knowledgeable. And I appreciate that because there's a depthness to that. And
it's all fake. We just spout off.
Dude, you're not supposed to tell them how his sausage is made, dude. Just say thank you. Yes. No, we're very knowledgeable. Hire us for your next party, and we'll tell you all about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was listening
so
to your. Sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it's cool how podcasts evolve because we've kind of been going through some of that evolution as well, where when we started, it was we'd pick a bourbon and go through a whiskey every week. And we did it all at Jake's house. And then Roberto moved to Texas. And so it was a little more difficult to all do the same bottle. And then I moved an hour and a half away. So we've had to go more themes and adjust to it. But yeah. Same point, it gives us some more talking points. We're not all just talking about the same thing the entire time. So it's cool to see evolution.
Yeah, I think the themes are a better route to go anyway. I mean, you can only listen to so many reviews and so many podcasts about talking about a certain whiskey. So
yeah, I mean, especially if
I like how you guys
interesting whiskeys. You know, it's like, oh yeah,
right.
This tastes okay. Hey, anyways, we got another 45 minutes to kill.
You end up listening to us rant about Tom Cruise for.
We haven't had a good Tom Cruise rant for a while.
No, it has been a while.
Do we not like Tom Cruise because he's Tom Cruise? Do we not like Tom Cruise because of Scientology? Do we not like Tom Cruise because he's Tom Cruise in everything that he does?
Why are you assuming that we don't like Tom Cruise?
Do we like Tom Cruise because he's Tom Cruise in he's like Kevin Costner. He's Kevin Costner in every movie that he does. I love Mission Impossible movies. I do. I think the last one was great. That's my take. I think some of them were trash.
We were talking about the stunts, I think, in that one episode, how he does everything, which is pretty cool. I'm pretty sure we threw in some Scientology jabs too.
Yeah. That's low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
So the topics are there to kind of keep us in check, and it also shortened our podcast too, because if we had a little bit more focus early on, I had some people do some reviews for me and just said, just listen to this, and they listen to a lot of podcasts or publish a lot of podcasts, and they're like, it's okay. It'd be better if it was like shorter, because you guys are now just rambling on, and once you've had a few in you, it ends up being kind of like, I love you, man. I love you too, man. Like hour 3 is just, we might as well be making out on the camera. So
yeah, we don't know anything about that.
We just get friendly. I don't know. It's all warm and bourbony. We got to go.
Yeah, it's not like we've recorded 3 episodes in one night.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bad idea.
20 different pours to get through our March Madness bracket last year.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Well, that or the night. So there was that night. There was the night where we finished the Old Elk thing, and then did Roberto's final episode.
Yeah.
And then I don't even know how it happened, but when Jake when he joined us the first time as a guest, the one time at Jake's place, like all of a sudden it was 2 a.m.
We had to celebrate. It was my first real appearance.
We did the barrel. That's
we did 2.
The barrel pick, right?
Yeah, we did the barrel pick as a.
Yeah, that's what happened. We did 2 episodes, and then it was like 1 a.m.
Yeah,
that was rough.
Yeah, John and I have done a couple of those, but those are considered our lost episodes. I think I published one, and then we listened to it, and then the next day I took it right off. I was like, no.
So yeah, anyway, we're drinking Irish whiskey tonight. So yeah,
it's almost St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, by the time this airs,
or by the time you listen to this, it was just St. Patty's Day.
So yeah, crack open an Irish whiskey and celebrate with us 2 days late.
Yeah. What do you got? Oh, you got the Jake. What was that again?
So this is Glendalough, a Calvados cask that we picked for the store.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been
pretty
wanting to try that.
Yeah,
he's annoying because he has all these great store picks. Yeah. And I live too far away to get them.
Hey, buy it online. Jake will bring them to you.
There you go. Hey,
we're gonna start shipping soon.
Nice. Wes? Where are you guys like? What's the whiskey scene like there in Washington? How easy is it to find stuff? How expensive is it? What's it like out there?
I'll start with price. The price sucks. It's we are taxed to hell. It's probably like a 24% tax on top of.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but so that's federal, state, and then a sin tax from the state. So it's super expensive to buy whiskey here. It doesn't stop me, as I'm sure all your wives also know. It doesn't stop us from buying this stuff. But mine definitely is pricey. As far as the scene in Washington, it's actually pretty accessible. We have a lot of whiskey distillers. We have a lot of bourbon distillers, and a lot of single malts. A lot of the grain comes from Eastern Washington, so that's a big part of Washington whiskeys, if you will. Just right close to me, I have Ula, which is a fantastic whiskey distillery. I have Westland. Everyone should probably know Westland. They're pretty nationwide.
Yeah, it's
fantastic single malts. They just came out with their Solum, which is like a peated, but it's like it's interesting because they have a peated single malt, and it's very peated. It's nothing like Lefroy or anything like that, but or Ardbeg or Highland Park, but it's peated. And then their Solum just came out with actually using Washington State peat. So I believe from Wenatchee, and it's the smell is wonderful, and it's light, and then you taste it, and all of a sudden the peat comes out. So it's kind of cool whenever the smell and the taste don't match. It's kind of, to me, that's fun. You know, it's like, oh, it's like a
Mhm.
surprise. But it's really kind of light in taste, and so it's actually really, really good. 2 bar distilleries close by, 3 Howells is close by. So in Seattle alone, we have a huge scene of distilleries.
What about
Copperworks,
Woodinville?
the Woodinville, of course. I
Big
think
is
they were
that big
like the
out there too?
first. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they were kind of the first as far as those things go. Um, I don't know what else. Copperworks is another great single malt, and again, all of their
Trails End, but that's Oregon, isn't
yeah,
it?
that's Oregon. But still, you know, we all consider that the Pacific Northwest family of whiskeys, and we have great water here. We have great spring supplies and stuff like that, spring water supplies. So
Nice.
our water's very fresh and really good. So I one of the things we try to focus on is we all love Kentucky, we all love Tennessee, we all love Texas, but I think we try to focus on local distilleries for ourselves here, and yeah. So that Westland, anyone that's listening, if you want to try Washington State whiskeys, Westland will be your friend. That one is very good. Can't go wrong. And if you can find the sherry cask, man, that sherry cask is my absolute favorite. It is just fruit and sweet and it's beautiful.
And those Garianas, those are very good as well.
Yes. Yeah,
Some of
expensive
the
though.
best,
Holy
most
crap.
expensive, but still some of the most unique American single malt whiskeys I've ever had.
Yeah, well that oak is a very different oak too. So it has a different character to it. It's not just like regular American white oak.
Right.
It brings out a different character, much like sherry casks or whatever. You know, there's something different about it that the sugars, when they get in there and after you char the barrel, it does something else to the whiskey and the chemistry. So it's really good.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking Bushmills, but not just regular Bushmills, because I don't really like regular Bushmills. I got Bushmills Black Bush. Don't look that up on the internet. You'll find stuff you don't want to see. It's I've had like Jameson Black Barrel, but the Jameson Black Barrel really means that they recharred a barrel. And so it was better than Jameson, and I kind of like Jameson. Bushmills Black Bush is sherry cask, so it's in a Spanish Oloroso sherry cask for, I think it said 10 years. No, 8 years. 8 years. So that's a long time actually for an Irish whiskey to stay in a cask, because they like to pump these suckers out. And Bushmill is, and this one is also, I think, 40%. I want to say 40% malt in it as well. So could be 80%. I have my notes somewhere. But 80% malt. So its flavor is nothing like white label Bushmills. It's much more kind of punchy in the face, much more fruitier, not so much on the vanilla. I find Bushmills toned down as far as Irish whiskeys on the, vanilla cookie thing that we always talk about when we talk about normal Irish whiskeys. So yeah, that's what I'm tasting. It's fantastic.
Now, when it comes to single malts, where do you rank Irish single malts versus Scotch versus American single malt?
Low. I'm not a fan of Irish single malts. I love Scottish single malts. I mean, I really like single malts. Westland is my favorite, and I don't. It's not just because they're hometown. There's something about the flavor. They have a unique character in their single malts. Most distilleries have a character about them that you can always kind of pick out, and Westland has one that's what would I call it? It's sweet. It's I had a word for it just the other day because I was down there last Friday drinking their Solum. But anyways, they all have a character, and I really like their character at Westland. It's something that I really enjoy.
Nice. Yeah.
Are you a big St. Patty's Day guy, or are you just kind of it's another holiday on the thing, or are you still a go out, get green, and get Irish drunk?
Yeah, as a Scandinavian, I'm not into the St. Patrick's Day. I think once, right after I turned 21, so this was decades ago, we did the Great Guinness Toast at a Irish pub called Tiernanog in downtown Seattle. and that was probably the only time I celebrated St. Patrick's Day, and got blasted. So wasn't too bad. I remember it.
Yeah. Chicago is a pretty big St. Patty's Day town. I mean, they dye the whole river green. I've never been a big St. Patty's Day guy. I think probably in my earlier 20s, I used to go out and tie one off pretty good.
It was a reason.
Because that's what you do.
It's an excuse to start drinking at 8 in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to put green.
Just the Irish way, right?
Your
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's gross. I think this is the first year we didn't have anybody order a green keg from us.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, recession's coming.
Or not yet, at least, right?
Yeah.
Jake, how many... is there normally multiple green kegs? Or is it usually
yeah. Normally we'll do, I don't know, 3 to 5 green kegs, but maybe, I don't know, maybe because the weather's been so cold, nobody's throwing parties and keggers, but... or people are just realizing how gross it is.
It's kind of weird too, especially with it being on a Friday. You think that people would be more amped up to get hammered on St. Patty's Day, but
right?
That's interesting.
So, what are they ordering as far as a keg? What's the beer choice?
We actually move a ton of craft kegs.
Okay.
I think we sold a Conway's Irish Ale in the last couple of weeks from Great Lakes.
A good one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that stuff is like tricky because if nobody buys it, then we're stuck with it and nobody's going to want it until next year. So we don't really take in a lot of seasonals and kegs unless somebody pre-orders it or requests one.
Sure. Yeah.
That's interesting. Now, Wes, you're obviously a big beer guy too. Like for me, I mean, we're Chicago, so we have so many good craft breweries around. But it's funny because the style of beer I like most is going to be more of your Irish reds and things like that. And it seems like that's one of the fewest we can find out here, especially in this market. Do you guys have a lot of Irish craft whiskeys or craft beers out there?
We have lots of craft beers. We have a lot of small breweries, and which is great because I actually would rather drink from the small breweries. We have a great one down in Georgetown, Washington, in Seattle, downtown Seattle. It's called Machine House. It's in the old Rainier Beer Machine House building, and they do a lot of sessions. They don't carbonate their beer, and it's very vegetable. Like it's like day drinking beer all day long. It's fantastic stuff. I have one close to me called Good Society, and they do a lot of variations of beers. I would say, kind of annoyingly, that IPAs, because that whole IPA fad, hipster, stupid thing that happened on the West Coast.
That's here too, don't worry.
A lot of IPAs. But one thing I learned because of John, my co-host, which I really appreciate, I didn't like IPAs because I was drinking the wrong ones. I was drinking West Coast ones, which are piney and bitter, and I didn't really care for that. East Coast ones are fantastic. They're fruity, they're delicious, they're sweet, and they don't have that awful bitter beer taste that gives you the bitter beer face. So
you still like East Coast IPAs?
I do. Yeah.
I'll take that any day. We've noticed a huge trend. The East Coast IPAs got very popular about a year ago, and now they're starting to kind of die off a little bit, and people are starting to ask more for that West Coast style again.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't like the West Coast.
I think it's just because they're... I was just going to say, I think it's because they're pretty filling, so after you drink them for long enough, you kind of just want something a little bit lighter, but yeah.
Right behind Westland, there's a brewery called Sea Pine, and they make pretty good beers, but their IPAs are exactly what you'd expect. It's piney, I'm not a big fan of that. I like stouts, big beers, heavy beers. Give me a barley wine that tastes like grandma's raisin bread right out of the oven, and I'm not only on my lips, I'm very happy on the ground. So those are my favorite.
Nice.
Yeah. So in Illinois, Jake, what are they? What do you see mostly going out your door? I'm kind of interested, actually, in this part of the industry.
For beer wise or everything?
Everything.
Bourbon, big bourbon. I mean, we're a huge bourbon store. Bourbon's really popular right now. We do a lot of barrel picks, usually about 50 per year. Um, and so I think we've just built up like a really good clientele of bourbon lovers, and we do tastings weekly, sometimes bi-weekly, and I would say 80% of them are bourbon, and that's just because that's what people are asking for and what people want to go to. And I think the non-bourbon tastings are usually a better time, better experience, just because you can tell people are opening their eyes to other spirits, and the people that come to represent those brands are usually a lot more passionate about their brand.
Okay. Yeah.
But definitely mostly bourbon.
What brand can you say? Like, what's usually going out the door?
Um,
Wes, just ask him if he has any Taylor. If you want.
yeah, I
Seriously,
mean,
Taylor would've done his
do we
job.
have to go over the Buffalo Trace and the
Oh,
Wild
I'm
Turkey
sorry.
and
I'm sorry. I'm
yeah, but it's probably the same brands you'd find out there. I think obviously you said you're a big fan of local distilleries. We've got some pretty good local distilleries here that people like to support. But it's a big mix. I wish I could run a report real quick on how many different bourbons we have in stock, but we just like doubled our shelf space for bourbon in the last year. So
Oh, that's great, man. I wish
yeah.
there was a place like that out here. That was
Mhm.
close.
See,
That was close.
I think half our spirit shelves are bourbon and rye.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
what's funny is whenever Jake does these tastings, a lot of times I'll do blind tastings at the store. Jake runs them all, and he always likes to put those coveted Buffalo Trace allocated whiskeys in there and try and get them to lose so he can show people that they're not as good as what they think they are, which a lot of times is the case. But then sometimes he puts his salesman hat on, because I was at one, and
This will be good.
the first round there was a whiskey that I tasted, and I'm like, this is the best one that's been in a blind tasting. And everyone else at the table agreed. Then the other one was okay. And I think the final vote was like 27-15 or something. And Jake's like, oh, this was a really close one. So the one that you guys picked at 27-15 was Elmer T. Lee. And I forget what the other crap he was trying to peddle was. But then the next vote was like 2 votes different. He's like, this is a blowout.
I don't remember this. I need some facts here. I don't.
that was one of the
I need you to.
whiskey clubs.
I need you to pull up the actual results from that tasting.
Yeah.
Look into that, because
Elmer T. Lee, I remember, was pretty close.
No,
it wasn't that much of a blowout.
It was 70-30. It was in the 70-30 range, and you're like, it's close. And then the next one is like 1 or 2 votes.
I'm gonna.
Oh, this is a blowout.
I'm gonna find these results before this episode is over.
But it was just like how he was trying to soften it. Elmer T. Lee wasn't that much better than the other one.
Well,
and I had my highest tasting notes.
Are you an Elmer fan?
I like Elmer, but it's not. I spent a lot of money on my bottle that I got because I was hunting it for a long time and finally got one. And I've had it many times before. I regret spending that much money on the bottle. But I would say, like, honestly, looking back at it, I think the Buffalo Trace kosher wheat I like better than the Elmer. And the kosher wheat isn't anything that special. But again, I'm always been more of a wheated bourbon fan. But
yeah, put Elmer T. Lee in a blind against some Buffalo Trace barrel picks, and I guarantee it'll lose every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't get fancy. We don't get fancy stuff up here like that. We just get Buffalo Trace. And I don't know what your guys' price point. We get it at $26, which is like $4. That's before tax. Like $4 more than it was like 2 years ago or whatever. I kind of watch it.
Yeah,
I have a German
where it is here.
I have a German.
Yeah, they
neighbor.
do a good job keeping the price true.
Yeah, I have a German neighbor who was only drinking like whatever they could get in Germany, and it wasn't American bourbon stuff. And so he asked me when they moved in next door, like, "Hey, what's a good bourbon?" So I gave him Buffalo Trace because I figured if you're gonna great beginners, this is all the characters of a bourbon that you kind of want. It's not super interesting, but it's safe. And he actually really enjoyed it. And I gave him Eagle Rare. And I think he liked Buffalo Trace more than he liked Eagle Rare. And again, like your guys' last episode, it's kind of hyped up stuff. But the good thing is that their price points are decent for what they are, though, too. Like Eagle Rare's
Yeah,
$34 here.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
the Buffalo Trace stuff, if you get it at retail, is like some of the best values in terms of price
Sure.
to
Yeah.
quality.
Yeah.
But good luck finding it at retail. You know?
Yeah, and just straight Buffalo Trace, it's so like it's just an easy drinking bourbon, especially for people that are just trying to get into it.
Yep.
It's it's never gonna stand out crazy special, but it's always gonna be a nice, smooth, easy drinking bourbon, really good bourbon flavors to it, and it just a really solid whiskey.
I do have a question for you guys. Do you have a house bourbon?
All right, I found the results.
All right, let me hear
A
this.
house bourbon,
Because the first one,
we don't have a house bourbon, but I mean, we do a lot of barrel picks, and we've been in talks with a few distilleries to do a house bourbon, and it's probably something that we should do. But I don't know. I just think like finding different barrels from different distilleries is more interesting than a house brand.
Sure.
That like
Unless like we were
diversity
actually
of-
distilling or
Yeah, the diversity of barrel picks that you guys get is pretty like unparalleled. And it's pretty fun too, because like it's almost like a couple drops per month usually, right?
for barrel picks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we did 2 already this week.
So I mean, it's always exciting to see that pop
man.
up on
I'm
the
jealous.
old Instagram, and
Yeah.
gotta pull the app up right away and put my order in before they sell out.
I'm pretty jealous.
all right,
Jake, you want to move out here?
all right.
After I am done with the store, maybe.
Yeah, there you go. Open up one out here. I'll help you.
Don't you guys have
All right, Jake.
McMinimums or whatever?
We got a lot of those. They're fun.
What's that? Yeah. My buddy that lives out there just sent me a care package with some of their beers and whiskeys.
Their whiskeys aren't great, but their beers are good.
I told them like they surprised me I thought they were just going to be undrinkable. And they're just unique, like one-off mash bills.
Yep.
Like the hop flavored one and whatnot. But yeah, I gave them to another friend to taste and get his feedback on. But let's get to the blind tasting results. So
Let's shit on Dan for a minute.
It wasn't as big of a blowout as Dan said. He was off by 2.
Off by 2. Okay. Again, the sales rep coming off. He was off by a small amount.
But it was against Evan Williams 1783, which is a $20 bottom shelfer. And I just kind of threw them in there blind against each other. It was 27 votes to 17. And yeah, the description says not as big of a blowout as you might think. And
Yes.
when I look at those results, I see that we just made 17 people realize that they don't need to go chase after Elmer T. Lee, and it's not worth the hype. I mean, if you're one of those 17 people that picked Evan Williams 1783, you should never hunt down a bottle of Elmer again. Unless it has some kind of like
bandwagon.
Sentimental value. But I wish I had a Buffalo Trace single barrel to put against it. But the whole idea is to get people to realize that there's things out there on the shelf they can go ahead and grab instead of having to pay secondary or stand in a line to get a certain bottle.
Yeah. I agree with that 100%.
So Dan wasn't shit on. Jake was just trying to sell really hard.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's my job, right?
Well, speaking of all this bourbon, let's talk about Irish whiskey.
Nah.
So
Jake, what's your little red bottle back there that you're drinking from?
yeah, so I'm drinking Red Spot tonight.
No, how'd you find that?
I actually don't remember where I got this.
I've been looking all over for
I
that.
saw it somewhere.
It used to. I mean, it used to sit on the shelf, and I don't think we've gotten any in like a year. But it sat on the shelf for a little while.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean,
When it first came out a couple years ago.
I had all the spots except red and gold. Then I found the red at a store. I don't remember where. Then I found the gold, which I probably overpaid a little bit for, just so I could build the full collection. but it wasn't actually that much over list price. I don't think. I think it was like,
Was that what you the last time at Sam's? Is that where you got the gold?
yeah,
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
because he had somebody he knew was selling it, so he it was only like $30 over list or something like that. So I figured I might as well grab it. I heard really good things about it. So, but yeah, so Red Spot is 92 proof. Red Spot is distilled by Middleton, which also distills almost every other Irish whiskey in existence.
Yeah.
From Jameson, Redbreast, the Middleton Very Rare, Powers, all of the Spots, Method and Madness, and Napa Castle. If you listen to our St. Patrick's Day episode from last year, we pretty much exclusively drank Middleton without realizing it.
Not hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, the color on this Red Spot's pretty like hay colored. I would say it's kind of light, but it's a little bit darker than some Irish whiskeys can be. This is I think it's a triple cask finish with bourbon, sherry, and marsala. You definitely get a lot of the sherry and marsala on it, but it's very, very balanced and like well rounded. So it's pretty easy drinking. It's a 15-year, so it's pretty old as far as Irish whiskeys go in general, I think. So yeah, all around it's pretty good. I do have to say that I'm a much bigger fan of the Blue Spot, because that's a cask strength and it's just like unbelievably delicious. But this is pretty good too.
Nice. The one thing I've realized, be it American single malt, Scott, or Irish, is for me to have a chance at liking it, it's got to be cask strength. And I think that's more or less just because I'm more of a American whiskey fan.
Yeah.
And when I drink, even if I'm drinking bourbon or whatever, I like it to be in the 110 to 120 proof. And I think the Irish and Scotch and American single malts at anything less than 110, just I don't get enough punch to make me feel like I'm drinking something that I want to drink.
Yeah, that's my biggest complaint about Middleton Very Rare. 80.
What proof?
80.
Okay.
Unless you get like one of the single variation, like they came out with those tree variations that are cask strength, but the standard release is 80 proof.
Yeah,
and it just doesn't
freaking
do it for me. Yeah. It was
So,
probably the most complex 80 proof whiskey I've ever had, but for someone that likes barrel proof bourbon, it just didn't do it.
So, do you want to tell us about the Glendalough that you're drinking tonight?
Yeah. So Glendalough, this is a private cask that Gold Eagle picked. It's finished in Calvados for a year after 4 years in French oak. It's unique. I know we're the only place in Illinois that got a Calvados cask. And it's a larger barrel than a bourbon barrel, and it was a blend into the Calvados, so it was a huge yield. We got like over 350 bottles out of this cask, but that was a year and a half ago, and I think we're down to about 60 or 70 bottles left. But what's interesting about this is when we released it, I had a guy drive 4 hours from Iowa to buy some of it, and sat down and had some conversations with him and kind of learned that there's this whole secondary market, but not really inflated prices like bourbon is for Irish whiskey, and got turned on to some different Irish whiskey groups and Irish whiskey collectors. And this guy has an Irish whiskey collection that would blow away a lot of bourbon collections that I know. And I know some pretty hefty bourbon collectors out there. But this is definitely one of those whiskeys where the nose doesn't really match the palate. The nose is very smoky and kind of reminds me of like a smoked old fashioned. Lots of fruit, lots of like burnt orange, and then the palate is just extremely mellow. You get like light apple notes, and it's just a really good like spring summer sipper when you want to break and want something lighter than bourbon. that Calvados cast. And you would think being aged in the Calvados for a year, it would kind of overpower it. But I think because the whiskey's just so light, then it just kind of adds a nice touch of fruitiness to the whiskey.
Nice.
Yeah.
How did you guys end up with Glendalough? Is that something you'd been working with them on a while for, or just the opportunity came in front of you?
So we really like that they're still independently owned and operated, and one of their I guess like world brand ambassador who lives by the distillery in Ireland comes to Chicago pretty often, so we kind of built up a relationship with him, and they've done just a tremendous amount of support with us and helping us sell this barrel, and they've done lots of tastings and events. And we like seeking out unique things like this where you can only get it here. I think that was the most appealing thing about this, was that they weren't going to sell any other barrels into Illinois finished in Calvados cast. So if somebody wants that, they have to come to us. And also when you go on their website too, they do a really good job with Store Finder. So like if you're searching for a product, it'll pop right up Gold Eagle as the top location to purchase it. So
what you're saying is you wanted a monopoly on it.
I mean, yeah, kind of. I mean that, if every store gets a barrel of this, we're going to be stuck with a lot of cases of Irish whiskey. But like I said, we had that one guy drive from Iowa to buy a couple 6-packs of it. And I think that right there just kind of shows like how unique this is, and helps back up why we did what we did.
Nice.
Cool. What you got, Dan?
So I'm cheating tonight. I am kind of drinking Irish whiskey for a guy that doesn't like single malts that much. This is a bottle of Bardstown for Cullen, which they only sold down at the distillery when we were down there last fall. And it is a blend of a 17-year-old Tennessee whiskey, 2 12-year-old Kentucky whiskeys, and then 20% of it is a 21-year-old Irish malt from for Cullen. So the unique thing about it is all these Bardstown blends that they're getting, the 17-year-old and the 12-year-olds are older than their distillery, so it's sourced whiskey from them. And then this is sourced from for Cullen, but for Cullen's only been around since 2018, so they're not old enough to make a 21-year-old. So this is something that Irish distillery sourced in, and then they decided to blend it all together. When we were down there, we got done with the tour and we tried it, and I thought it was one of the best things I'd ever tried in my life. Now, Wes, just to preface this, that morning we got to Bardstown at about 9:30 and had an old fashioned for breakfast. Then we did the taste, as you do. And then we did the tasting, and then we did some White Dog, and then we thieved a barrel, and then I went back and tried this.
Oh, so your palate was ready to receive it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. My palate and my brain were very.
So does it taste like you remember?
So the funny thing was, I got it there. I thought it was the greatest. I had it a couple months ago. I took a pour of it, and I'm like, that's not the way I remember it. But then I busted it out again tonight, and I'm like, okay, it's not as bad as what I thought it was last time. It's on the nose, so it's got kind of a honey color to it. On the nose, it's a lot of oak and cherry, so it almost kind of has more of a true American bourbon nose on it. Palate is a lot of honey, some nut, and some nuttiness, kind of almost like a Knob Creek nuttiness to it, and then cinnamon. And if for only being 20% Irish whiskey, or 20% Irish, so 20% malted, and I looked up, the highest malt that was in it from an American side was 12%. So of the 20% that's 100% malted, there's not more than 12% of the rest of it is malted. You can really tell that it's got a lot of single malt in it from the palate. Finish the same way. I wish it almost came back and finished more with a bourbon where it stuck around, but it's kind of that soft, gentle single malt finish you get on things where it doesn't stand out. It just kind of slowly dissipates away. But like I said, the first time I tried it, it was one of my favorites. The second time I thought it wasn't that great, but I'd say it's a solid whiskey. I mean, you could only get it at the distillery. I'm sure that they don't have it anymore. Like some of the Bardstown stuff, I don't think it was worth the price of it. But overall, I would prefer this over most single malts that I've had.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
because it's only 20%.
and I definitely like the fact that you can only get it at the distillery. It's fun to share that stuff with people. And I mean, obviously, having a liquor store, that's what I look for when I'm traveling to distilleries, is stuff that I wouldn't normally be able to get.
Yeah, I mean, we did a lot of them down there, and of course, everyone wants to go to Buffalo Trace because you might be able to buy Taylor or Eagle or Blanton's at the gift shop that day. But you can, if you search hard enough, you can find that stuff wherever you want to. I do like when distilleries have special stuff that you can only get at the distillery, just because it's something more special, more unique, and helps you remember that trip more than anything else. And plus, Bardstown's done a lot of different. This is their collaboration series. They've done a lot of different collabs. They like Founders. They had a big collaboration with, who was the rum company? Didn't they do a big collab
Plantation?
Plantation, yeah.
That's good rum.
Ferrand, Cognac. They've done a lot of really cool collaborations.
Yeah. It's, for me, like I said, I like this. If you're not a big single malt drinker, this is a good transition into it, where you still get some of the single malt flavors, but it sticks with you. And this is only 102 proof, too. So it's kind of on the lower end of where I like whiskey, but it still tastes pretty darn good.
Oh, I forgot to talk about the price on this. Is that okay, Dan? Can I do a quick sales pitch?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So the other cool part about this is it's only $50 a bottle, which is a great price. And we actually have $10 off right now, so $39.99 for this bottle through St. Patty's Day. Well, I'll keep it on for another week, just so that people that are listening to this can have a chance to come and get it.
But you don't ship yet, so I'm screwed.
No, we don't ship yet. Yeah, but I don't know. Jake or Dan might ship it to you.
Hey,
if you buy it.
It's illegal. Can't do that.
Ship out. Say it's olive oil.
I got some essential oils I can send.
Yeah, essential oils. Those are distilled.
It's because Illinois shipping laws for alcohol are pretty tough, but there's still more stuff going through, hopefully, isn't there, Jake?
Yeah, I was just listening to a podcast the other day, and there's a bunch of Amazon documents that leaked that show that they are like lobbying hard to change all the shipping laws in every single state.
Wow.
But I mean, even so, basically the way the podcast concluded was if they went all in on this, it would take at least 5 years for anything to change. The laws are just so locked down and so old school, and it's extremely difficult to get anything to change. But Illinois changed something a year ago where it made it a little bit easier. But still, as of now, we can only ship to 5 states without getting a license in those states. There's like 17 states that we could ship to, but we would have to apply for a license in each of those other states. So I think we're going to take it slow and do just a couple states at a time.
I don't know. I think 5 years for the government to do something sounds like it's moving at a blazing fast.
Yeah, no kidding.
That is, I mean, they haven't really changed anything since Prohibition. So
yeah, I mean, 5 years sounds like they're moving. Someone's doing some work.
But it is Amazon. I mean, they've got some power.
That's true.
Yeah, they got money behind them. I remember when I was in Austin last. It was a Sunday, and I was at a Austin distillery. I won't say their name, and I went to buy a bottle because they had a cask strength that I really, really liked. And I asked the guys, like, "Oh, can I buy this bottle?" He goes, "No, Sunday." And I went, "Yeah, it's Sunday." And he goes, "No, it's Sunday. I can't sell you a bottle on Sunday." And I just got done with the flight, so and our plane leaves in like 3 hours, and I was like, "Well, fuck." I was like, "How about this? How about a bottle went bad, and I tipped you $75, and you put the bottle out in the trash." And he just kind of looked at me for a minute and goes, "No." And I went, "Okay." I was like, "I get it."
It was a valiant effort, though.
Yeah, I tried. Yeah,
the creativity points. Yeah. That's well worth it.
It's a big tip.
I remember when I was in college, we went to Dallas for a field trip because they have all those like newer museums that they dumped a whole bunch of money into. And we went to Fort Worth one afternoon, and me and my 3 buddies just went into the saloon, and I asked for just a local whiskey, so they gave me TX, and I tasted it, and I was like, "Oh, this is incredible." I was like, "Is this available anywhere else?" And she was like, "No, they only sell it in Texas right now." So I, for like 6 months, scoured the internet trying to find somebody that would ship it to me, and I stumbled upon a like unbelievably shitty specs website that could ship it, but they weren't allowed to ship it to Illinois. Like almost every other state they could ship it to except Illinois. So we actually shipped a case to my buddy's parents' condo in the Dells, and then drove up there to get it.
Yeah. Do you like TX?
So yeah, I like it a lot.
I like it a lot too.
Yeah, I think it's good.
That's good stuff.
Their bourbon and the blend are both excellent.
Yeah, they really are. The mouthfeel on those, it's like silk. It's so good. It's very good stuff.
Yeah. My buddy would always say that the blend smells just like fresh baked chocolate chip cookies. It's pretty spot on.
Yeah, it's sweet. Yeah. I can see that. Awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. So overall, I think Irish whiskeys are still something that aren't, and Jake, you can probably speak to this too. They're still probably not the most sought after in the industry yet, but there's definitely some good ones out there to find. Why do we think that they might not be as sought after as some of the Scotches and some of the American whiskeys?
I that's a good question. I think Americans, we like things that are sweet, and that's why we tend to like bourbon. And Scotch has been established for so long. There's a lot of heavy age stated Scotches, and that's kind of looked at as like a luxury category. And I think a lot of people here just look at Irish whiskey as like St. Patty's Day cheap shots, even though there are some really good neat sippers of Irish whiskey out there. But it's almost like a forgotten little category in the world of whiskeys.
I think the age statement's a big thing of that too, is because you see a lot of these really, really old Scotches, and a lot of the Irish whiskeys are roughly in the same range as what American whiskey would be. And it's like, all right, well, I can buy a really old Scotch, which sounds cool, or I can buy a 8-year-old American whiskey or a 8-year-old Irish. Let's go American.
Yeah.
I will say, go ahead, Jake.
Last year in our episode, one of the things that I kind of uncovered when I was doing the research was that for a very long time, there were only like 3 distilleries in all of Ireland. And it's only in like the past like 20 years that the industry has been exploding.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not 100% sure on this statistic, but I'm pretty sure that Irish whiskey is the fastest growing spirit category. It's not in the top like 5, but it's year over year the fastest growing in sales. So there's like anticipation that it could start to break into that top 5 and start taking out like vodka or something like that, just because it is growing so rapidly.
Well, I will say, Whiskey Advocate just came out with a article on that more than 72 million bottles of Irish whiskey were shipped to the U.S. last year, making it a 28% growth rate from 2021. And tequila is the only one that's has seen that kind of uptick. And Jameson is still, like, I guess it says here, accounting for nearly 80% of all sales, which is weird to me, but I think it's brand name on that, because there's actually a lot better. I think Tullamore Dew is better than Jameson, honestly. And Redbreast,
yeah, it's definitely brand recognition.
Yeah. So I mean,
Jameson kind of gives it a bad name too.
Yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, the Black Barrel, I would encourage people, if they don't like Jameson, to try the Black Barrel, because it was still, the price point was still low, but it had like all the Irish whiskey qualities plus something more that was more unique. So if you're someone who doesn't like, okay, yeah, I've had this before, but you want to try something with a little bit more something to it, which is what I'm always looking for. I thought Black Barrel was better.
I think the 18 is pretty good too, and it's kind of a reasonable price. It's like around 130, 140 bucks a bottle.
That's interesting because the Black Barrel is 16 years in a double charred barrel.
Is it really 16?
Yeah, I was surprised
didn't
when
know
I
that.
read that too. Yeah, I think we did that on our last podcast or podcast before we did a Black Barrel Jameson.
And they don't put an age statement on the bottle, do they?
I think I drank all of it. I can't remember.
If they, I mean,
You drank the bottle?
Maybe.
If they do, it's somewhere small on the back.
Yeah, it might have been on the website. I believe it said 16. I can, or you guys can look it up too. But yeah, it was. I believe it was 16 years. Oh, I hear the keyboards.
Yeah, sorry. That's me. I
That's
got a
good.
really old
Enhance.
keyboard.
Oh,
Oh man, why do I ask up on my birthday?
no. How old are you? Let's see. Like a kid's gonna be like, oh yeah, I was born in 2018. I can't go on here.
Right.
Right?
Man, what's going on? I'll eventually find it. You guys can keep talking.
Aged 16
Yeah.
years in a double
There.
charred barrel.
It's like I'm a big fan of Redbreast,
Hmm.
and I had
Which
never
one?
really. I like the 15 the best.
Okay, I've only had the 12.
The 12
so.
is also really good. The 12 is it seems like the 15 is a little bit harder to find. Though I think when I got it, it was on the shelf. But
They're
I
all
think
kind of getting a little bit harder
Yeah.
to find, but it's not like something to hoard. They're gonna come back around.
Yeah. Yeah, I also have their Kentucky Oak release from last year, which is really good. It was really tasty. That one I actually bought one at Gold Eagle, I think, and then bought a second one from somewhere else. I don't remember where. Expecting it to be like a super limited release, and I saw it on the shelves for another like 6 months, and I was like, God damn it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, well, Wes, if people want to listen to you and John and talk about beer, bourbon, and Balderdash, where can they find you guys at?
Beerbourbonbalderdash.com. You guys can find us at any podcasting 2.0 app and regular podcasting app like Apple Podcasts, but we really focus on the value for value model, which hasn't really given us anything other than some Satoshis and some bottles of whiskey from Garden State Distillery. We love you. And but we're really trying to focus on that a lot more. So trying to get donations from listeners and supporting not us because we all have day jobs, but supporting things that they might want us to review or to taste or to talk about. And we do have a very good fan base that we are really appreciative of. And so you can find us on any of those. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Fountain.fm as an app. As you listen to other podcasts that you like, you earn Satoshis, and Satoshis are like Bitcoin change. So you're earning some kind of cryptocurrency, but Bitcoin, not some shitcoin currency. While you listen, so while you're listening, you're earning something. You're earning something of value, and you can give that value back, or you can just hoard it, and that's fun too. And yeah, so those are the places that you can find us, and we really enjoy listening to Bourbon Matters, both John and I, as we scour the bourbon landscape. Which I'm glad you guys are still around. I'll have to say that, and because I've noticed that a lot of people, they start these podcasts and they have these ideas and then they just kind of. So I'm glad you guys are still going strong. Yeah, that's what I say.
Jake's just starting.
But
we're like you guys because
they brought me in because they're ready to give up.
No.
Wes, you guys are just over a year old as well, too, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were at 51 episodes, minus our two secret episodes that never aired that were trash. Where we were like, I think one of the episodes we I thought I hit the record button, and it was a really good episode. And then I looked at John. I went, dude, I haven't been recording. And he's like, what? And so we tried to record another hour, but it was madness. So we decided not to publish that one. So yeah, and you know, a lot of us don't make it. I mean, hey, Obama and Bruce Springsteen didn't even make it to, I think, 20 episodes. So the fact that you guys are on, is this your 51st?
I believe so.
We have numbers, but then there's also like our special series that don't go into the numbers. Yeah. So we're probably in the mid 60s.
There you go. You've done better than Obama and Bruce Springsteen. So you should just give yourself a hand clap. You're better than the President of the United States podcast. So good job.
What does that say about what does that say about America? Is that Bourbon Podcast can do better than the former POTUS?
That it's for the common people, man. This is for the people. This is of the people and for the people. We don't want to hear presidents and celebrities. We want to hear common people talk about nonsense. We can relate.
My goal is to take down Bourbon Pursuit. So
yeah, that's my goal too. Maybe
that's my favorite.
Some more forces. No, those guys are nice. So
yeah,
you know, they get a lot of industry people, I think, and I think that helps them in that. And our niche is kind of I think the way that John and I we just wanted to do bar talk. Where it's kind of arrogant. We sat around drinking and then talking and laughing, and we thought, you know, I think other people would like this too. So really our podcast was out of arrogance, and we just do it for fun. So the fact that we have anyone that listens is a bonus, quite honestly.
I mean, ours kind of was too, because I actually was looking for a bourbon podcast to listen to and listened to Bourbon Pursuit, and I was like, these guys are the driest motherfuckers. I was like, me and Dan and Roberto could do better than this.
But you know, I guess if you're trying to get like you know, someone high up at Heaven Hills or something like that, you wouldn't want a podcast. I guess they wouldn't probably want to be on a podcast where they're talking about, you know, I don't know, fart jokes and their wife's tits and stuff like that. You know, they'd be like, I don't know that one. You know, we got a reputation at stake. So yeah.
Jake, so Gold Eagle, if they want to get the Glendale Lock bottle, if they want to get the Knob Creek that we actually did the barrel pick on our podcast a while ago.
Am I allowed to talk about this?
Of course, you're always allowed to talk. The only thing you're not allowed to sell is trying to convince me that 1783 is just as good as Elma Cuban. That's where the sales pitch has. That's where the sales guys got to step back.
Hey, 17 people. 17 people, man. goldeaglewine.com. Download our app on the Google Play Store. Yeah, you got to download it. Google Play or Apple App Store.
You don't ship to me. Why would I do that?
Because we will soon. You can start adding stuff to your cart, and then as soon as we ship, you just click buy.
All right.
And then there you go. But yeah, Instagram, Gold Eagle Wine, Facebook, Gold Eagle Spirits. Follow us there. We post every day our deliveries, and then you can buy and see our inventory online.
I get coins when I type in Gold Eagle. What am I doing wrong?
Gold Eagle Liquors, Illinois.
Oh, Gold Eagle Liquors.
Gold Eagle Wine and Spirits.
Gold
Gold Eagle Liquors will probably pull it up. But if just
it pulls it up.
Head to goldeaglewine.com, and then there's a link that you can click to download the app.
Awesome.
Are there any bottles of that Oak and Eden left that dropped today?
I'll have to check. I've been getting some sale notifications while we were recording, but I'm sure we still have some left. But it is getting low because word is getting out.
Yes, that one was delicious. That was what is it?
Amberana.
Yeah. It was like cheesecake snickerdoodle cinnamon
dessert in a glass, like
unbelievable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bro, your guys' place is kind of famous. Originated in 1933, received your third liquor license issued by the city of Chicago right after Prohibition ended.
Mm-hmm. My great-grandfather.
Oh, are you part of the family?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Did you say congratulations for his great grandparents having sex?
Yes.
Essentially.
I think it's cool to have a family history and then continue in the family business. that's a cool thing. It's a legacy. I think that's good. I wish you
Yeah.
guys many years of staying open and lots of good stuff coming your
No,
way.
I
man.
appreciate that, and
Yeah.
looking forward to listening to your guys' podcast too.
Yeah, and come out to
You've gained
Washington and
another
open
listener.
up a Golden Eagles out in Washington.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And Jake 1, not Jake 2. What about our podcast? Where can they find us? Where can they listen?
Yes, you can find us on YouTube for the video, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, all of the other podcast places. I'm going to start looking into podcasting 2.0.
Yes.
So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Then you can go to our website at bourbonmatterspodcast.com, email us at bourbonmatters@gmail.com.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right. Well, everyone get ready to get drunk for St. Patty's Day. Don't drink Green Bear. It's not good. Drink Irish whiskey instead.
Don't put paint in the beer. That's bad. Green paint in the beer.
Nice. All right. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.